welcome to the Read and Weep Book Club. Today we're talking about Bright Eye Burn with our guest Emily.
Hello.
Hi. And so if you haven't read the book, it follows this girl named Alice, and it goes through her whole life of her husbands. And let's say she got married like 4 times, and they all mysteriously died. And so there's some chatter in the town, and she may be a witch, and that's all I'm gonna say. And so definitely read it. We loved it. It was really good. It was. So go read it and come back, and we're gonna talk about it. Okay, go. Yeah, let's talk about it. So, what did you think?
I was like really surprised about what the book was like actually focused on, because when I read like the summary when we were choosing a book, it was definitely made it seem like it was more focused on like the story of like a female like being persecuted as a witch, and like that I thought that was what the focus would be. But honestly, I really liked that it was more about her life and not only focused on that towards the end. And it was interesting just to hear her perspective and how like little it kind of did focus on the witch part, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said when I was talking to my friends about this. Because I was like, okay, it's like about like a witch person, and like she got accused for like her dead 4 husbands. And then it starts like she's not even married yet. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're walking through all the husbands. And then like the last 10 pages was like the witch part.
Yeah.
It
was like each chapter was like a chapter for like based on like who she was married to at that point.
Yeah, that was so cool. But like, honest question, I did not know. I didn't know the difference between Robert and Roger. Because I thought Roger...
Oh.
I thought she got married to him.
Yeah.
And then like, when he just shows up, I'm like, wait, I thought
that would be
dead.
so confusing. You're like,
yeah, but who is Robert?
Robert is one of the husbands, but Roger is William's...
brother.
Or not William's. Isn't Robert his brother?
Yeah.
And then Roger... Yeah, they're brothers. But she was married to Robert, but Roger was the first one where she like wanted to marry, and then he was like, no.
Okay, and Roger was the one who her dad tutored, because she was like, hey, Dad, like, stay away from me.
Yeah, okay.
I think so. Cool.
I felt like it was so interesting, like, I don't know, that there was, like, not really an explanation of her relationship with her dad and how it was, but it was, like, implied.
Oh,
and, like,
it was the most beautifully written book I've read in a long time.
Really?
It was so good. Because I've been reading some books that they ain't doing it.
What did you like about, like, what was your favorite way, like, I guess, like, in which it was, like, written?
It was like what you said, how it's implied through, like, symbolism and just the way she writes it. Instead of saying, like, it's dark, it's, like... Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like it kind of mirrors more of, like, how she had to be discreet in, like, real life. Like, she wasn't going to come out and say what was actually going on or why she didn't like her dad or wanted to be around him.
Yeah.
It was just kind of, like, even her maid or her servants were, like, kind of got the gist of what was going on just because she would, like, be really avoidant with him.
Exactly. But I thought it was crazy. What do you think about the whole cat thing?
Yes, oh my god.
I was like, there's...
They kept mentioning cats. All, like, cats and how she was connected to cats and, like, other animals, too.
Do you have a guess on what it means?
I feel like cats are always connected to witches, so it kind of plays into that a little bit. And then also, I think cats are generally, like, viewed as more like a female presence, just like on the way that they the way that they act. But also I just like that they would talk about like the cat, specifically at the end when I was reading it, where it was like the bishop, was it, he picked up like the cat and like the cat like ran away and like escaped, and it was like more like personifying the cat.
Maybe
a lot.
Like maybe
she's like the cat.
She is the cat. That makes sense. Because do you remember at one point, like, she was on the bed, I don't know if she had just given birth or not, and there was this cat and she was scared of it. And it was like, oh, this cat could kill me with just a scratch. And I'm like,
But it's like what she's doing to other people.
Yes. Oh my god, that's so good.
But I loved the symbolism with like the animals and
I know. Just the
like
first page hooked me. Just saying, her beard is bloody. She stands on the edge of the forest. Beside her lies a dead ram, his neck gaping open, red in the snow. I was like, I'm reading this.
I was like interested in the beginning too, like with the bobcat, was it? Like the bigger cat, like a wild cat. I thought it was gonna be more connection. That's when I thought it was gonna start to get witchy, because it was like her like looking for a cat, and I was like, how is this connected? And then it just kind of like dropped it and just continued on with the story. But then like the cats would come back, so I thought that was cool. I just love it.
And then okay, so I guess let's like walk through each husband and like I guess our thoughts on them. Okay. So she loves Roger, which is who her dad tutored, or he tutored her dad. And then she's like, I'll marry him. And then he's like, no, like, I don't want to get married. Meh. And then she's like, okay, give me your brother then. And then they get married. And then I thought it was crazy. I even put it on here. When they get married and they go to like the bed and she's like excited to like, I forget the word for it.
Like
consummate. Yeah. And then, okay, ready? I'll read this part. Ready? The hands will grasp, the breath will become ragged, insistent, but my hands lie still on my chest and my breath is steady. I am waiting for him to take me in his arms and do what he must. I am terror and also, yes, curiosity and even excitement. I have seen dull and steady women transformed into wild creatures. They are what I'm waiting to become, but I wait and wait until the morning comes. And I'm like, what the hell just happened?
I think with this, I've thought a lot about when I was reading how it's really focused on like loss of different things and like loss in different like types. And with this, it's kind of like almost like a milestone that like every woman goes through, and it's like, especially in this time, it's like a really big deal. So it's almost like she lost like that special kind of moment because it wasn't what she expected or what other people told her to expect.
Exactly.
And she didn't really get that experience. And I feel like
I've never read a story where like the woman is excited.
Yeah.
Because most are just like, oh, I'm terrified. But like she's excited, and I was excited for her. And then like,
and then we were all disappointed.
I was not expecting this part of the book. Like what?
And they were just so painful the whole rest of the marriage when it was just like that over and over
20
again.
years.
Yeah.
That's just insane. And like, why do you think he was that way? Do you think he just was gay and just like didn't find her attractive?
I think that like it could be a lot of things. I also think that like sex during that time was viewed to be like dirty and like
shameful.
Yeah, shameful, and maybe that was just like so ingrained into him. But also the way he was described, he was such like a timid man. Like he didn't really have
he was shy.
Yeah. He didn't have like the fire that she did. Like maybe he just never knew, maybe he's asexual, maybe
he
like
could
anything.
Be, yeah.
So
I just found that so interesting.
Because you would expect like any man, especially like during this time period, to be like ready.
Yeah.
You know, to like they're always viewed as more like
I really think like maybe it was like asexual because like he really didn't want to get married and he just like agreed because she
it's like transactional. You know, it was because he was like, okay, this is kind of like what we just have to do anyway, so might as well. And like she has money and she gets things from it, but they already knew each other, so
yeah. So then they end up finally having a kid because she couldn't like force on him. And what's his kid? William, probably William. And I thought it was interesting, that whole part when like she loves her son and he just is very whatever this word is, like not reserved but like not interested in the son. And then she ends up getting pregnant again with a daughter, and then she's excited, and then randomly she's like, oh, the kid is like dead inside me, like I need to like get rid of this or else it's gonna kill me.
I did wonder like what that was about or where that could have came from, because like you said, she was so excited about it being like a boy the first time. Was it because she was a girl and she was so like nervous about like bringing a girl into the world that she was in? Like, because the baby was alive in the end. Like, it was alive, and honestly taking the poison probably did cause its death after. So
I just thought that was great, and I was so confused. And then she immediately goes like, it's ugly, and I'm like, oh my god. And then like her husband
Robert.
Was his name Robert?
Right? Outlaw. That's his last name.
Outlaw.
There's so many of them. I can't keep track. I was wanting to like make a timeline of like everything. I was like looking up online to see if someone made it. So I was like, I need this laid out. Exactly. I need each one.
So he loves the daughter, which I was surprised about because I've never, reading it, he's never shown any affection towards anything besides this daughter. And like, why did you think why? Like, I don't know.
I don't know. That is a really good question. I didn't think about like why it was so different with like William, his son, which usually like a father and a son have like a deeper connection.
I don't know.
What do you think?
Maybe pity That's probably like really bad, but like she was so didn't want to even like touch her. Yeah. But then like it flipped and she like was all about her daughter. And I don't know what changed there.
That would make sense. Like with you know, her husband, I feel like you said, he had to step up. And like before, like with William was like a strong kid. Like he was like
he had
fiery
the fire.
and exactly. But seeing like a daughter maybe more similar to himself and like also he didn't.
And I really liked that part. It really made me appreciate him as a character.
Exactly.
That he really.
Because I feel like they didn't know much about him, but also because, you know, Alice didn't know much about him because it was like they didn't have that type of connection.
Exactly.
Where they knew deeply about each other.
That's what I think too. Okay. So then what is it, like 20 years later? How does she end up killing him again? Poison? No, he's ill and she just finishes the job.
Didn't she smother him?
Yeah,
with a pillow?
With a pillow. I think he was already dying though.
No, that was a different one. Oh. That, I think she did kill him because she was just so tired of like being kind of held down by a marriage, especially her first marriage. She like didn't have as much freedom, I think, as she thought she would have.
Was it she already met the other guy? What's his name?
It was because was it the next one was the guy with the lightning,
guy.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
So I think she did it mainly because she wanted out. Yeah, and that's the only way.
And she got divorced, or like his wife had died. And she's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, this is my chance, and the only way is to kill him. And that was the choice. She did.
I was so happy for her when she ended up with the other guy. She just went up to his house, met her.
I thought that was so bold. Like
that was. She's like, I'm not sorry, but like, I'm sorry you feel that way.
But then that whole part, like where they met in the first place with her being like struck by lightning. And I love how she wrote that scene where I was like confused at like what was going on until he came up the same way like she was confused about what was going on. Like all of a sudden it was like her just running to the water. So I thought that was interesting. But like the lightning, I feel like it does connect to like the very end of the book. If you have any thoughts on that, about like witches being burned and how she was burned, but then she like still lived.
Yeah, she like defied the odds.
Exactly.
She's like, fire's not going to kill me. I am fire. I thought that was just crazy. And then, okay, what did you think about that whole coin symbolism? Do you remember that chapter of like how a coin is made, or like the story of a coin?
Can you remind me?
Let me go find it. It was so interesting.
I did love in this book, I've never seen a book split up chapters or part of the storylines with like poems and things, or like some of them weren't poems, but they were like gossip between other people.
That was so,
I really liked that.
I'll read it. This one was so good. And I read, I went on YouTube and I found there's like nothing on this book yet. And she went to Edinburgh and to a little bookstore and did like a whole talk. Wow. And she read some of these parts. I'm like, wow, you're really cool. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Oh my God. I'm about to butcher this so bad, but I'm going to do it.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 17. It's before she gets married, and I guess... Oh my gosh.
Okay.
All right, ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, at the fish seller's stall, old man... Oh my God, I'm gonna ruin this. How do you even say that?
I pronounce it in my head as Kyteler.
Okay, old man Kyteler shat himself at church last week. Haven't we all, Tro? Not today, thank you kindly. Kytler's in his bed now, and the daughter's running his inn. Not much new there. Worse, she's taken up lending. She thinks the sun shines out her. I wouldn't say no to her, though, if that's what you're meaning. Isn't it a shame you're a married man? There's ways to wriggle out of a marriage. Only way I know is through the graveyard. That's what I'm saying.
There's so much foreshadowing in this book.
So
like,
good.
Actually, so much. There's so many points where I think if you, like, I read this book again, there's so many points where I'd be like, oh, that's what's, like, showing us what's gonna happen.
Man, it was so good. Okay, so let's move on to the third guy, and she finally, have sex all the time. I think that was like the whole point of their marriage.
Yeah,
That's
it
kinda
was
what
like
felt
finally she got what she wanted. And it was like something that she was always the authority in her first marriage, I feel like, and now it was like she was like dominated, you know, by like a man, and he like saved her as well. Like
I completely agree. I think he was my favorite husband for her. Except at the end, I did get confused. There's a lot of points I got confused in here. He was like it all seemed good to me, and then randomly one night he's going through her drawer and like finds poison, and she pushes him down the stairs.
I don't remember what prompted him to do that. I feel like there was something.
I think it was meant to be read like you don't really know.
Yeah, I don't really know what happened, but it was like it just like went by so fast. Like when it was all happening, how you said he was like opening the chest and she was like freaking out.
I got it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But it's also like, what was he trying to prove by that? Like
exactly, like they were good.
Was he like scared that she had like what happened in her last marriage, and maybe like it could be coming for him? Maybe. But I don't know. And I thought it was interesting the way he died. Like it was the only one where she wasn't trying to kill him. Like
she wasn't.
It was actually just like argument, and neither one. I bet
he was drunk because he went out with her son and to the pub or whatever, and then I bet he just came home. Maybe her son like spilled the beans on like what she did, and he like wanted to go find it, and then
I think you're right. I think he did. Yeah. I think they did mention that like he was wanting to be closer to him, so William started telling him things that maybe he shouldn't. And was
this the husband that she got his stepkids? Yeah, that's the first time she did that.
I will say those parts of the book where it was like talking about how in each marriage she was like trying to get each husband to like sign over everything to her and William. Yeah. And I get like the self-preservation, but it is interesting how like I could see why people would dislike her, because she is doing things that are wrong.
She is.
So it's kind of interesting like hearing her perspective, being like, well, I don't care, I'm like caring about myself. And it's like, in a way, if she was a man, I don't think she would have had to do that. But it was like the only way she could gain that much power as a woman during that time. But it also made me dislike her a little bit, because I was like, maybe let's self-reflect, girl. Like, is that the best thing to do?
But okay, so the guy that she met at a party when she was pregnant, she ended up marrying him later. Was it Duvall?
Well, she had known him when she was a girl, I think. Like, he would come to the end, but he was the only one that would, like, ask her questions and, like, try to see how she was doing when everything was going on.
So that's not the brother of the guy she married. It's two different people. Okay. I combined them in my head. Okay, so he comes up to her and he just, like catches her in her little lie, and he's like, so like that's what you're really doing, and she's like, you know me so well, and he's like, I got you.
That's so funny. Like it really was like, I think in that marriage, I think that that's the only marriage that they really saw each other the most. Like all the other ones, they were so separated. Even like when the one with the big like guy, it's like their main thing was their like sexual exploits. Like it wasn't a lot else, I think, that was like.
I thought it was so cool that she mentioned that like they were like doing like threesomes and all that. Yeah, I thought that was so you never hear about that, I feel like, in a book, and I'm like, that is so cool.
Especially like this time period, like that's not something that.
Yeah, she's like, oh, me and another couple, we did that and then we did this. I love that for them.
She's so like, she really is wild, like honestly. She like is. Even for like nowadays.
And she's a real person.
Yeah.
Obviously this is, dramatized.
Yeah, but I didn't even realize till the end of the book when I read that note by the author that this is like a real story that she was able to like research, and like Alice was a real person. And everything is dramatized and like made into like a story, but it's like so interesting that she actually existed, and through this way I feel like maybe the author gave her more freedom than she did have, because she wanted to give her like a voice, she was saying.
Yeah. So. And like she went down to like the inn where it's still there, but now it's a pub, and they have a statue of her, because she's kind of like, like a scary story you tell your kids, about like the boogeyman, and she's like this witch person. Yeah. And she's like, oh, like let me actually like see what she was like, and like this is really what her life was like. And I'm
trying to like look beyond just like what the town was saying about her. Like it's so cool that she like Did it mention, or did you hear, like, when you were looking about things about the book, about, like, how she found out about her, like, where the idea came from to write a story based on her?
She was told, like, her story when she was a little girl.
Oh.
And it was like, oh, this scary witch,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, no, like, not really.
And it's like the witch part, like you said, is such a little part of her story. Part.
I really thought this was about to be the witchiest story, but no, not really. But, like, I loved it.
I think one of my favorite, like, scenes that they would constantly bring up in the book, though, is, like, when they would talk about Alice and her servant. How do you pronounce her name? Like, Petronia?
Ooh, it started with the P, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh.
How do you pronounce? I pronounce in my head Petronia.
I think that's absolutely perfect.
Okay, we'll call her that.
Petronia.
But I loved when they were just talking about, like, them in the woods with, like, their kids, and they were just, like, swimming. That was, like, just a peaceful moment within, like, everything else, and it was just, like, normal life.
I loved it. But, like, that was crazy in that one part of the book when she goes and, like, opens the door and her husband's on top of her.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I wasn't very surprised.
I was surprised. I was like,
I just feel like the way that she talked about him is like Laporte was like,
he was a bad guy.
He was a bad guy, and I feel like the servants alluded to it before. They were talking about, like, I hate that she, like, doesn't kill him. Like, why can't she kill him? She knows what he does. That's like she killed the others, but she lets him live.
True.
Like, they were kind of on her side, but also, like, she's their protector. And I think that's why Petronia was, like, so betrayed. Like, I don't know. Because that really changed the relationship after that happened.
It really did. Okay, and then as we're getting closer, like, to the end of the book, I just get beyond confused. Because she kills him because that was the final straw.
Yeah.
That was the final straw. So she killed him, and then his stepchildren are like, she's a witch. She's a witch. And then the bishop's like, yeah, okay. And then I'm lost because Petronia ends up burning.
Yeah,
well, like, how did that happen?
There's one part at the very end that it lists, like, a bunch of names of who they were going to, like, round up, basically. The accusations, and then where is it after? A list of those arrested for witchcraft. And so she was in that list, so everyone that was in that list they could find was killed. And that included even Petronia's, like, daughter, like,
Sarah.
the girl.
Oh no, Sarah she kept. The other one. Wait, no.
It was like how do you pronounce it? It was the one that starts with a B. The youngest one she kept, but I think Sarah also died.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible. She probably couldn't have saved them because she just randomly became a man or like became.
Yeah, I was so confused by that part. I was like reading over it and I was having it, like, it was interesting that the bishop, right, that came to visit, he didn't know it was her. He still couldn't tell because she was, like, disguised as a man. But if she was so, like, different and, like, recognizable to everyone,
she's
like,
red hair.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting because she obviously couldn't, I think she was gray by then, so maybe that's what helped her kind of be disguised. But she was, like, at a convent, but she was, like, a man who was, like, a leader. That was a very strange part. Like, I wonder if that part was true or if, like, that was so interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so, the last part of the book is accusations.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. The last part of the book is Alice.
I know, it's finally her story.
That was so good.
Because each one is, like, just the man, the husband, who kind of defines, like, that part of her life. And then now she's alone.
Yeah, but I'm not going to lie, this part really confused me. Should I just, like, re-say it and see if we can figure out what it means?
Yeah.
Okay. Alice. Accusations. She denied the faith. Not just her. A bunch of women. Some men, too. For a year and a day. Dismembered animals. Scattered the parts at a crossroad. For their demon. Robert, son of Art. I heard he was Robin. A bird. No, the demon. Broke into St. Mary's. Whispered curses against their own poor husbands. Extinguished candles. Shouted, fee, 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 amen. Used powders and ointments to entrap us. Entrails of cocks. Dead men's fingernails. The brains of unbaptized boys. Over a fire of oak logs, all cooked inside the skull of a thief, the dame Alice mated with the demon. It was a black man. No, a dog. They had an iron rod. She rides it every night. And here was I thinking she just killed her husbands. Huh?
I think this is just the accusations is like some of the other parts in the book that were breaking up the storyline, where this is just what people are saying about her, and it's like normal to be confused because it's not true at all. Like what they're saying is not what's going on. It's just like the townspeople, like what they're saying.
All these things are saying about her. That makes sense.
And it's like none of this is going on or true. It's just like she did kill her husband. That part is true.
She did. Wow. And then all the accusations. Okay, that makes so much more sense. So like that's a list of those arrested for witchcraft, and she's in there. That's so crazy. See, I guess it was just because I read this all in like a day, and I'm like,
really?
I'm confused. So who was your favorite husband?
What's his? It's like something Devalle. What's his first name? Is it Robert? It's the guy that
knew her from the beginning. Yeah,
I really liked him because I felt like it was such a switch from the relationship before she had, because that one was so like fiery and like rough.
Yeah.
And like she had excitement, but it was also, she said in that like relationship towards the end that he was like changing a little bit towards her.
Didn't he hit her once?
Yeah, like becoming rougher and not like really treating her in the way she wanted to be. Like it was not as exciting but more like fearful towards the end. Like it was starting to change. Yeah. And then when she went to the next guy, he was like completely different, but he wasn't closed off like her first husband was. It was just like a soft, like so understanding relationship, which I really liked.
And he died with like just illness, and the only reason she poisoned him was for like for him. Oh,
so I thought it was such a nice thing that it showed the progression of like her relationships, and they make sense the way they went, like because the first one, you know, she was so excited to like have like a sexual experience and to have a marriage, and then it wasn't what she expected. And he seemed great on paper. Yeah, and then the next guy is like what she was missing, and then the next guy was like what she was missing from that one.
Yeah, and then she finally got there, and then I don't know about the fourth husband.
I don't know why.
I would have been fine of being alone.
What was the whole reason? Is because he knew that she killed her husband, so she felt like she had to marry him, and then she was like, "I'll just marry him because I can kill him anyway eventually,
and take his money." But why would she ever admit to it? I don't understand why she just like said it.
I don't know either. It was a really reckless thing to do because it was during like the masquerade thing, and they were like in the woods just caught up in everything, so I'm not sure. Yeah. But I hated that she married him, and I was so mad at her.
I know, and that like caused the whole witchcraft thing. And then how did she end up getting that servant, Petronila?
She just kind of showed up one day, I feel like. Yeah. Like, she just hired her. She just
loved her.
Yeah, and she, like, thought she was, like, similar to her, where she just wanted to, like, not be married. It was kind of like when she was younger, how she felt about everything, and she was, like, more fiery and, like, less submissive than, like, servants usually are.
Right. That makes sense. So, like, if you could, you know, talk to Molly and be like, hey, like, can you fix this or change this or edit this? Would you have anything be changed or, like, elaborate more?
There are a few things. I really liked the way she, like, structured the book. I love how it was a lot different and, like, broken up, and you got to hear, like, what other people were kind of saying about the situations. And so I thought that was really interesting, but I do think the language sometimes I wish was a little bit more, like, poetic in a way. And I think it's meant to be, like, in some points just be, like, show how, like, you know, normal or just kind of like a not a proper person, like a proper girl, maybe.
That makes sense.
But I do wish it was, like, a little bit more poetic in the way it spoke about some of the, like, the scenes, like, with the cats or different things like that, because I love the, like, meaning of it. Yeah, it's, like, just little tweaks would really, like, bring more, like, beauty, I guess, to the writing.
Absolutely.
What did you think?
I thought it was great, like, what you were saying with the chatter and feeling like you're really a part of the town. I don't know. I think the confusing parts were meant to be confusing. I don't know. But I have this one part. What did you think of the mouse? Do you remember this part?
Oh, yeah, I think,
like, there has to be
what page is it on? Because I think
it's
I wrote
on page, why are we, 150. This is when she's married to...
So I think when I was reading this...
This is when she's married to LeBlond. Is that the...
That's the, like, strong guy.
Yeah. Okay. I share my... Hey, how about you read it?
Okay. I share my bedchamber with a small black mouse. It's like him, small and struggling to stay warm. I take pity on him, close him in my palm, and carry him about. In the evening, I sit in a dining room telling marvelous stories for my guests about past encounters with men now famous and dead. The mouse watches me, his eyes shining and fires glow. Those eyes, even in the dark, they see. At night, the dead, mute faces of saints on the tapestries listen to my moans of pleasure. My sweet husband against me, gently touching me the way I have come to like. By sunrise, the mouse is curled up in my lap, and we are all sweetness. By a froth of my hair escapes my wimple. They look up, the mouse and my husband, and I am sure they see me for who I truly am. Was this with...
It was with LeBlanc?
Was it? I thought it was somebody else.
It's when she just married LeBlanc.
Oh, it is. That is the guy we're thinking of who's, like, the one that found her with the lightning. Right?
Yes. Yes. Because they, like, end up there, have a whole, like, sunset moment.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the mouse is her previous husband because he's so, like, small.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. It's kind of like another symbolism, like with the animals, where the mouse was, like you said, like the quiet husband who was kind of now seeing her for who she is. And I kind of was, what I wrote down was like how constant loss impacted her and who she is compared to who she used to be.
Because we didn't even talk about the mother, and I feel like that was such a huge part of the story.
I feel like she just changed so much throughout the book, and like at this point I feel like she starts to see how she's like becoming as a person, and she doesn't like she keeps mentioning throughout the whole book how like people seeing her scares her because of like what she's done and who she's become. Because
I feel like, I mean, with her dad strangling her mom, we don't know why that happened. That had to have just impacted her to be just career or just money focused, and that's why she got married so quickly to someone that, I mean, she was excited, but I think she kept losing her mother's like fiery spirit, almost like that, what's the word, maybe that warmth where she was more like cold fire, if that could be something.
No,
like
that makes sense.
Fire.
Yeah, it wasn't like you said, like a warmth. It was like because she lost her mother in such like a violent way, she understood that marriage is just something she has to use. Yeah. And then I think after her first marriage, she maybe thought, okay, well, if it's going to be like a use, it could be also a use in a different way, where it's not necessarily about like finding someone. I don't think she even thought or considered that she could find someone it would be like a relationship. It was always just what was she going to get out of it because of what happened like with her mom. Yeah. That makes sense. But then did she talk about how her mom was, and how her mom was a little bit different than other people? And yeah, I mean, her mom, all I think about is the whole wildcat, how she kissed the wildcat. And that has to be some kind of symbolism that I'm not getting, but also just like literally speaking, like I think she has that just free spirit almost. And then her dad was very business oriented. Yeah, and it's very similar to how like her husband was and then how she was. So it's like the cycle continuing. But I don't know, I think the most interesting thing for me was just seeing like how many types of loss people experience throughout their life. Like part of the loss was like the loss of herself, the loss of her experiences that she wanted, but then also like loss in the literal sense of like her husband's and also her daughter, but also like with William, talked about like loss of him growing up and their relationship. They stopped talking. Yeah. And that was because of why? What was it? I think was it after LeBlanc died? Was it when they stopped talking? I think so, because he told LeBlanc what happened, and he said that he'd never do that, so she cut him off, or they just didn't speak. And I think he also like, I don't know if he trusted his mother in the sense of like, did she mean to kill him? Like, I don't know if he really knew or knew what to think anymore. That makes sense. I mean,
in his shoes, yeah, that's
because like, what
that's
do you think? Like, if your mom is killing her husband's, you know, accident or not?
It was so funny the town calling him a weasel.
Oh my god!
I was like, God.
You're like, okay.
That's so funny. Okay, so. Okay, this part was really confusing too. Do you remember the true tale of Margaret Russell?
Yes.
You do?
That was, it was brought up again later on in the book when they were talking about Lepore, and, like, he brought her up about what was happening, and I feel like he kind of twisted the story a little bit, and I think Alice had talked to Margaret before, and she was kind of, like, made a comment that was kind of going against what he was saying, and was, like, trying to get at him.
It's on 168. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
I liked that she included that. It was like another part of like his story, but also she never like died. Like she was still existing, I think, within the rest of the story. But it kind of showed like who he was and how she was like in the actual part that Molly wrote. Like she was going against like Lepore. Like she wasn't letting him have what he wanted, and like nothing even happened, I think, the whole 6 days. But then the way Lepore like told the story, it wasn't that way.
Yeah, that is so true. Okay, so the last thing I have, we could do ratings, and then I looked on the New York Times to like see their little book review of it, and I thought it was interesting. So like, of course, like there's all the praise and all that, but like I'm more interested in like the critique, because why not? So it says this. But lack of historical context alone won't unmake a historical novel. The death blow of Bright Eye Byrne is the central character herself. Some of literature's memorable characters may be villains, and anti-heroes often have greater lasting power than their heroic counterparts. Yet for a book that, as Aitken afterward states, citing sources she used as inspiration for Alice's life, is an attempt to give her a voice again, its portrait is singularity, even bafflingly one note. Whether it's death by suffocation, manslaughter, or poisoning, Alice's treatment of her successive husbands becomes as repetitive as it is wearingly predictable. Similarly, the novel circumvents much of the potential for heightened tension between Alice and her nemesis, the new Bishop of Ossory, who is intent on making an example of her. While Bright Eye Byrne attempts to do justice to the historical Alice, Aitken shrinks from confronting the real human cost of accusations of witchcraft. Perhaps that's too much to expect from a character who says, "I cannot have my guests falling ill or worse, dying. Their purse is dying with them." Indeed, one of the book's clearest takeaways may be that human life and profit are invariably entwined. I thought that was really interesting. Because I was like, I don't know. I didn't, like, obviously it's, like, predictable that she's going to be killing all 4 of her husbands. It says it at the very beginning. But I don't think it took away from, like, the suspense or tension.
I agree. I think that, like, I wouldn't say it became repetitive because, yeah, we did know basically it was going to happen. It was predictable in that way, but it wasn't about them dying. That wasn't the main point.
Exactly.
The point was the relationship she had with them and who she became in that relationship.
After each loss and, like, yeah.
It wasn't about, like, them dying. Like, that wasn't the suspenseful part. Yes. It was the relationship the whole time itself was, like
it wasn't really about witchcraft. It was so much more than that. So yeah, I disagree with the New York Times, and I feel like
I don't agree. So, but I do think with this book, I understand. Like, how has she written a book before this, or is this her first? The Island Child. She's written one previous book. I was just wondering because I do think maybe with time she'll develop as a writer even more because I think she has amazing ideas. She has amazing ideas of like plot lines and like the characters and the structure of it. But I do wish it was longer and it was really short, more descriptive. Like I wish like there's just so much I feel like she could have said more about each like thing that was going on and talked more about maybe even different.
Like not how the servant came, like there was just like it just
some gaps in it, and I love books that like even have maybe more complex story building and like kind of developing it even more, so like you're even more into like the story and like being able to imagine what the whole atmosphere is like.
Exactly.
So I think that would be interesting. I just felt like some of the parts it was a little bit like abrupt
Choppy.
changes.
Yeah.
And which is fun if that's what she was trying to do. But I do wish it was just more description even.
Yeah.
But I know it's hard to do when you're writing a book
I want more.
Mm-hmm.
But it's true. I agree. I think everything about it was good. It just needed more for it to reach that 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I rated it a 7.5 out of 10.
I'd agree. 7.5. I think that it is one of the more interesting stories I've read recently, and it's a very unique viewpoint of how a witch story would be. Because I do think it'd be easy where if she created a story of a witch, that would be predictable. We've heard those stories before, but this was something that focused on most people who are accused to be witches, they're just women.
Yes,
and that really pinpointed that she's just a girl who has 4 husbands and she kills them, yes, but the witch is the secondary part to the whole story. So I thought that was so interesting.
The title Bright I Burn, I feel that has so much symbolism.
Oh, I love the whole thing with the lightning and her burning and how it connected to witchcraft. I thought that was so genius and such an interesting part to add where it just something so chaotic in a story where maybe in a sense it was repetitive where she was just living a life where it was nothing too crazy was happening.
On a true story.
Yeah, exactly.
This
but that one scene kind of just showed how different and indestructible she was.
She really was, and she had that scar just all over her.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. But yeah, so next week, or we're having a bonus episode. We're gonna be reading Leaving. It's pretty good. It's Bridges of Madison County, but a little bit different. It's these 2 people, they were college sweethearts almost, and they break up, and now it follows, what's her name, Sarah, and Sarah's now 60 years old and divorced, and she's at the theater and she sees her college sweetheart, and she's what, the first line of the book is, "I never thought I'd see you here," Sarah says. Then she adds, "but I never thought I'd see you anywhere." And then it follows their whole rekindling things, but he is still married. So it's called Leaving, which, ha. But yeah, that's what we're going to be reading. And yeah, that's it, right? Yes.
I love this. It was so much fun. Yay! Thanks for having me, Dana.
Thank you. All right, bye.